Good morning, y'all. Today we are going to review coordinate graphs. We're going to take some notes here on our notebook paper. If you have some paper handy, you might want to get it out. After we take our notes, we are also going to look at some examples for today that you're going to solve. Okay, the first thing I want to review today is number lines. So say I have a number line that looks like this, and it's giving me the points 0, 2, and 4. Okay? If I wanted to find where 3 would go on that number line, I would obviously count 0, 1, 2, 3, and so this tick mark between 2 and 4 would be where 3 would go, right? Also, if I was given the number 1, I would do the same thing. I would say counting 0, 1, 2. So where this tick mark is between 0 and 2, my number 1 would go. Okay, so whole numbers are pretty easy. So let's move on to a decimal and a fraction number line. So if I gave you the number line right here, and I said 1, 2, 3, 4, okay, but I wanted to know where 1 and 1/2 would go on this number line. So remember we talked about when you see 1/2, that's saying that it's halfway between two numbers, right? Or in our case, 2 points. So when I look, it says 1 and 1/2. So it would make sense for 1 and 1/2 to go in between 1 and 2 because 1 1/2 is halfway between 1 and 2. So I would just draw my tick mark here, right? And I put 1 and 1/2. So I could also do the same if I gave you 2 and 1/2. Thinking back, when I look at 2 and 1/2, you should think 2 and 1/2 is between 2 and 3, right? So 2 and 1/2 would go right here. And yes, I know my number line's a little messed up, but we're working with it. So starting at 0, we would go over 3. So 1, 2, 3, and that's where 3/10 would be. That's all we're going to talk about for number lines. So if you want to, just draw a line down. Okay, and the next thing we're going to talk about is coordinate graphs. Now, with coordinate graphs, I know that we usually have those already printed out in front of us. So today we're just going to kind of draw one out, but the rest of the week you will have your own coordinate graph, so you won't have to draw any. So if we start, okay, and if we look, we're just going to review kind of what we talked about at the beginning. Remember the horizontal line here, we call that the x-axis, okay? And the vertical line going up, we call that the y-axis. So, where the y-axis and the x-axis meets has a special name. Remember, we call that the origin. When talking about the origin, remember, the origin has a special ordered pair. It's 0, 0, right? When talking about the ordered pairs, remember we talked about this first number that comes in the ordered pair is always the x-axis, and this second number that's in the ordered pair is always the y-axis. If you remember, we talked about, we use the acronym ASU to help us remember how to plot points, okay? A, remember, stands for across, so we're always going from the origin across the x-axis, right? S stands for stop, so once you have found your x-axis number, you're going to stop there, okay? And then the U would stand for going up our y-axis. So using this ASU strategy, we're going to practice doing a few points on our graph here. Okay, so if I gave you the ordered pair 3, 2, okay, and I'm going to go ahead and label that point K so that once we plot it on our graph here, we can label it K. So using my ASU strategy, I'm going to start at the origin, which is 0, 0. Oh, I have to label my number line. Sorry, forgot about that. Or my x-axis like I did my number line. So this is 0. So this is going to start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there's my x-axis that's labeled. I'm also going to do the same to my y-axis. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, now I'm ready. Sorry. Hopefully Ms. McAdams will get better at this note copying as we go on. So starting with my ordered pair 3, 2. I'm going to start at my origin, right, 0, 0, and I'm going to go across 3, right? So 1, 2, 3. I'm going to stop, and then I'm going to go up 2. So 1, 2. Now it doesn't have to be perfect on your paper, right, because we don't really have any lines like we do on a normal coordinate graph, but we're just going to make it work. So this is going to be K. If I gave you the coordinate or the ordered pair 0, 4, and I told you to label that M, okay, we're going to use the same ASU strategy. We're going to start at the origin. Now if I have 0 as my x-axis number, I won't have to go across, okay? I stay right here. So I've already stopped, so now I'm just going to go up 4 on my y-axis. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and that is going to be letter M. Okay, so that's all of our notes for today. These notes are also in your Google Classroom under Math Notes. I put them in a Google slide. You'll have to scroll down and look for coordinate graphs, okay? But for right now, we're going to look at our practice questions for today and go over one of the first examples. So this is going to be your practice for today where it says coordinate graph practice. You will have to go into Google Classroom to find this, but mine is just up, ready to go. Now we did give you some extra dots here to use in case these get deleted because we know that happens. Let's look at A. So all you're going to do is you're going to look at your ordered pair. So right here we have 3 and 1/2 and 5. So remember, our first number in our ordered pair is always the x-axis. So I'm going to start at 0. Okay. Taking my A, and it's just like a picture, so you're just going to move it down. Okay. Starting at my origin, I'm going to go over 3.5. So if you notice, there is a line in between 3 and 4. So that would be 3.5. Okay. So I've gone across. I'm going to stop, and I'm going to go up 5. And if you need to, you might want to use your fingers on the screen to connect them. Now, if I put it right here, it's not going to be perfect, as you can see, but it's pretty close, okay? So there's 3.5, 5. And if you wanted to, you could try to make it perfect. But as long as you are within that little section, you should be good. So let's look at B. So for our B, our ordered pair is 2, 7, and 1/2. So doing the same thing, I'm going to take my B point. I'm going to start at my origin. I'm going to go over 2. Okay, I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to go up 7 and 1/2. So if you notice, there's 7, there's 8, so there's a line halfway in between. So I'm going to put my plot, or I'm going to plot my point right there. And again, if it's not perfect, it's okay. Looking at C, okay, I have 1 1/2, well not 1 1/2, 1/2 and 6 and 1/2. So I'm going to start here at 0. Now 1 1/2 is going to be in between 0 and 1. So if I look right here, there's a line right there. So I'm going to, there's 1/2. Now if I go up 6 and 1/2, okay, there's 6. There's a line in between 6 and 7, so that's going to be 6 and 1/2. Okay, again, not perfect, but it's okay. Let's look at D. So my ordered pair is 0, 4 and 1/2. So if 0 is my first pair, right, my first number, I'm not going to move from here because I've already gone across. I'm at 0, right? Now I'm going to go up to 4 and 1/2. So that's right between 4 and 5, okay? So my number would go right there, okay, on that point right there. Alright, and looking at our last point, we have 8 1/2 and 0 for E. So my x-axis is 8 1/2, so I'm going to go across 8 and 1/2, and then I'm going to stop right there because my next coordinate is 0, right? So if I'm talking about 0, I cannot go any further. Okay? Now, that slide is fractions. So these other slides, there's whole numbers, there's fractions, and there's decimals. Now remember, decimals are just like fractions, okay? You just have to think about what comes between 1 and 2. Now, if you need me, I will be on Zoom. So just click on my link and we can talk through if you need help.